In this video, we're going to look at creating an animated banner. To get going, I'm going to need a few images for this. So the one I'm going to create today is based on the coffee example. I've already imported the images that I'm going to need, but if we do need to know how to import the images, we're just going to go File, Import, and Import to Library. And then you're going to look for the pictures that you need and go Open. And automatically they get pulled in here into the library. The first thing I'm going to do is modify my document so that it looks like a banner. So we're going to come up here to Modify and Document. And usually a size of width 500 and height 100. That will allow us to create the following, which looks like a banner. So the very first thing I'm going to do is drag one of my images here, which my coffee tum one, onto my stage and kind of line it up here to the left hand side. The very first thing I'm going to do is to obviously make sure it's a symbol so that we can animate it. So I'm going to right click the image and come down to convert to symbol, and a shortcut for that is F8. You can give it any name you want, but just make sure that the type is graphic. So I'm just going to leave the name as symbol 1 and the type is graphic, and I go OK. As I want my image to or my animation to go quite a number of seconds, I'm just going to extend my layer 1 out here to 110 frames. That's roughly just under 5 seconds. You can see the seconds are above here, the frames. So 70 frames roughly is about 3 seconds. So I'm going to click here on 110 and go F5, which inserts a new frame, which just means that layer 1 is going to extend from frame 1 to frame 110. So what I want to do with this first image, which is already converted to a symbol, I want to animate it that it obviously fades in slowly from frame 1 to frame 20. So I'm going to insert another frame here, frame 20. And then I'm going to go back to frame 1. And I'm going to make sure I've clicked on my picture. If I come over here to the top right, into the properties, I can add a color effect. And we could put the alpha here to 0, which means it's going to be invisible at frame 1. And then as it goes to frame 20, we want it to be visible. So we're going to turn the alpha here on frame 1 to 0%. So you can see it's done that. So if I roll my little bar here from frame 1 to 20, you can see that it's invisible and it's visible. But in order to make it animated, we need to include a tween. So I come back here to frame 1 and I come up to insert and I create a classic tween. So if I was to, again, even if I press Control and Enter on my keyboard, it'll just show me that fades in from frame 1 to frame 20. But it can't fade in unless you put that tween onto it. Again, I want another picture. Okay, so I'm going to click New Frame down here in the top left hand side. And because my first frame was invisible, and obviously it was visible then up to 20, I want my new picture then to come in at frame 20, where the last one finished. So on layer 2, in frame 20, I'm going to right click and go Insert Keyframe. And then I'm going to drag my second picture on. Kind of going to line it up. You can use your up and down arrow as well to line it up. And again, we right click the image and we go to Convert to Symbol. Again, we make sure it should be already defaulted to graphic, and symbol 2 is fine. Then what I want to do, I want to go from frame 20 to 40. So I insert another keyframe at 40. I go back to frame 20. I come over to properties, just like we did with the first picture. Okay, we make sure the picture is selected. And we come over to the color effect again, select alpha, and it should automatically default to 0, but if it doesn't, just move the bar down to 0%. And the last thing, it's already selected frame 20, I just need to go insert the classic tween. And again, if I roll my bookmark here from frame 0 right up to 40, it's got the first picture fading in and the second picture fading in. And again, all I need to do then is do the exact same for the following 3 images. So I create a new layer. I go to frame 40 because that's where the last one ended and where I want my new one to start. I insert a keyframe. I drag on my image, which is Coffee Tum 3, and ideally line up where I think it should go. And I right click and I go convert to symbol. I'm happy with those and I click OK. And then I insert another keyframe of frame 60. I come back to frame 40. I come up to properties. I make sure I've selected my picture. I come over to color effect. I go down to alpha. And again, it automatically put it to 0%. And all I have to do is go insert and then create a classic tween. And again, I create another layer, insert a keyframe of frame 60 where the last one ended. I drag my image on, which is coffee thumb 4. I line it up using my arrows. I right click and convert to symbol, and I click OK to that. Then I come down here to frame 80. I insert a keyframe. I come back to frame 60. I come up to properties. I make sure my picture is selected. I come over to color effect, put the alpha. Again, it automatically defaults to 0, and then go up to insert and create the classic tween. And again, the last picture, I insert a new layer again. I insert another keyframe at 80. I drag my image on, which is the last one, coffee thumb 5. Okay, it might go over a little bit. We can do a little bit of editing with the picture, there's no problem. So if you want to obviously transform it, you can click this little tool over here on your toolbar and maybe just bring it in a bit. Move with your arrows, maybe just a small bit. That's perfect. Just click the arrow here to click away. I right click that image and convert it to a symbol. I click OK. And then I go to frame 100, insert another keyframe. Alright, and then I need to go back to frame 80, go to properties, make sure the picture is selected, and put the color effect again to alpha, and go up to insert and create the classic tween. So at this stage now, from frame 1 to 0, I've added animations where they're fading in, and then obviously they're static on the picture. So if I go Control and Enter, I've got picture 1 fading in, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what I want to do now is I want to have a button appear at the end. Okay, so I'm going to come up here. There's two ways of doing this. You can either go to Library and click the little icon down here which says New Symbol, or you can come up to Insert New Symbol. So there's two ways of doing this. So I want to insert a new button. So I'm not going to use an existing button. I'm going to create my own button. So I'm going to go Insert New Symbol. This time I'm just going to call it Button, and the type we select is Button, and I click OK. Automatically then it opens up the editing window whereby you can drag on your own type of button. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool over here. Just draw any type of box. So you can see down here it's showing me that my border color is green and my fill color is white. Obviously you can adjust those if you want. I'm quite happy with that. I'm not too worried. And then I'm going to write some text here saying click here to view my website. Now that's quite big, so I'm going to go Control and A to highlight it, come over to the properties and maybe bring the size of it down to 40. And maybe the colour of the text to be some type of blue. Then I'm just going to click in here again and maybe just press return so it goes on to a different line. And press the selection tool here so that you can grab the word and move it. And now I've got my some type of a button. So I'm happy with that. Obviously I can change the colours. Obviously then I could add up, over, down and hit, so it can change the background colour when I click it, when I hover over it. But I'm alright, I just want to create a simple button here. So to get back into the main window, we click Scene 1. Okay, and we obviously nothing's going to happen because our button here is automatically created in the library. Alright, and you can see there it is called button. So I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, I'm going to insert another keyframe here at 100 and I'm going to drag that button on. Now it's going to come in quite large, so I'm going to use my editing tool over here, the free transform tool. That gives us little bars so we can click on. And I'm happy enough that it kind of goes over. We can adjust this as we go along, but for the moment we're just doing an illustration purpose that we have that button appearing. Perfect. So what I also want to do, okay, which is already selected, okay, I want to insert another keyframe here at 110. So I want to have it that it kind of fades in, but we can't see it here in 100, okay? So with 100 here selected, and this is already selected already. Maybe I'll just click my selection tool here to make sure it's selected correctly. I'm going to come back to my properties toolbar here, okay? And we make sure that frame 100 is selected and the picture, or the button in my case, is selected. And I'm going to change the width here to 4 and the height to 4 so that we won't be able to see it. Well, it's going to be very small on our stage. And I'm also going to change the color effect that the alpha is 0%. So that I wanted that you won't be able to see it, but when it goes to 110, you will be able to see it. So all I did there, at frame 100, I dragged in my button and I came up to properties, which obviously the button selected, and I changed the width and height to 4 and I put the alpha to 0%. And all I need to do now in frame 100 to make it animate is to come to insert and create the classic tween. So if I was to run that now, all the pictures would fade in, the button fades in, but it goes off very quickly because obviously I haven't told it to stop. So the very final stage is to create another layer to put in your actions. I might want to rename this layer to say actions. And at a frame 110, when I want everything to happen, when all the images obviously have stopped animating, I can right click here, insert a keyframe, and then right click again to go to actions. And the code I want is the code that we've been using here to stop and tell it to go to a web page. So I'm going to come back in here again, paste my code. Now this web page I'm telling it to go to, it's saying go to Google. So it's up to you then, obviously, if you want to change that here as your code. You can see Google is mine, but I'm happy enough with that, and I close out of that. And A automatically gets put there to say there's action script allocated to that layer. So to run it, I'm going to go Control and Enter again. Okay, it's going to have the pictures fading in and the button appearing, but it's not stopping for some reason. So I'm just going to go into my action script there again to make sure everything's okay. Let's see what the problem is. I know what the problem is, okay? It's telling me, obviously, I've forgotten one step. If I go to actions, it's saying button 1, add something that when it's clicked, it's going to go. But I didn't put any name to my button. So I'm going to come back here to my button and click it, come up to properties and click into instant name and give it the name button 1. Now you can give that any name you want, but you have to make sure, obviously, that the action script then says the name that you're calling upon. You're adding that event listener, so whatever add event listener you're adding to, you need to give the appropriate name. So I've called it button 1 there, but I forgot to name my button. But now I've named it there in the instance name. I'm going to go Control and Enter again. This time the picture should fade in, it should stop, my button should obviously fade in, and when I click on it, it should open up Google. So that has done exactly what I've wanted it to do. So that's the end of this video, and thank you for watching.